Autoline After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone Tires, solutions for your journey, and by Borg Warner. The automotive industry continues to evolve, and so do the opportunities to define it. Borg Warner, one of the world's most admired companies, gets partners where they need to go. Let's do something big together.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us on Autoline After Hours. Mr. Gary Vasilash is in the house.
John, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I can't wait to get to today's show.
There's going to be a lot of sparks flying.
Yeah.
I know Lindsay's got these.
So we got to tell everybody, we got Tom Murphy and Lindsay Brooke with us. Tom, which company are you with now?
Valnet is the parent company, and I'm writing for CarBuzz. They own topspeed.com. They own hotcars.com. And yeah, I'm assigned now to CarBuzz.com. It's great.
Got it.
If I touch your chair, will I get a shot?
Yes, you will.
And Lindsay's a longtime colleague of ours, and really an enthusiast for the industry.
Thank you.
So, Gary,
very enthusiastic.
Yeah.
We are.
What have you been driving this week?
So I've been driving a Genesis G80 3.5T, which basically brings the thought that I think people have forgot about the enjoyment of driving a sedan. Okay, I mean everything is gone.
I'm not giving up on them.
You're not giving up on them?
Yeah. So what do you like about it? Sedans. And this one in particular.
Well, okay, this one. I mean, this one is exquisite. I mean, on the inside of this vehicle, I mean, it seems to me that there are some people who are designing interiors in town who ought to look at the interior of a Genesis and then they'll start crying because they know that they won't be able to do that. I mean, it's just amazing. But I mean, in terms of the maneuverability, the ride and handling, I mean, you're not going to get that in an SUV. I'm sorry.
What's the price? What's the price? People want to know.
70. It's not bad.
Yeah. How about you, Tom? What have you been driving?
I test drove recently Jeep Cherokee and refreshed Grand Cherokee, and then was at the Highlander reveal, so got to drive the Toyota CHR EV and the BZ Woodland EV. So
wow. So
yeah.
Overall impressions?
Overall impressions, I think the Cherokee, I was really impressed with the interior, especially on the Cherokee. It's got this 1.6 liter 4-cylinder that is going to meet a lot of people's needs, but I think some people they want a little bit more from a Jeep, and they're not really presenting it as a heavy off-roader. So, we're all still struggling to justify, to understand the justification of Jeeps that aren't really Jeeps off-road, right? I mean, the Wrangler is a Jeep, and then you have all these others that, they're rugged, or they're supposed to be rugged, but are they rugged enough is the question. So that was my takeaway from the Cherokee.
Yeah. And it's a hybrid, right?
I'm sorry?
It's a hybrid.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's definitely a competitive piece for them, because they could definitely make some traction there, considering that a lot of the others in the segment don't achieve quite the same fuel economy.
So what's it get? Fuel, or what's it rated?
37 on the highway, I believe. So yeah, most of the others are below 30.
So like a CRV or a RAV4
CRV is a
30?
high. Well, all right. So here's this is when you get into questions about segmentation. So, the Cherokee used to be in the segment with RAV4 and the CRV, and I looked at, overall length and price and wheelbase and a lot of other factors, and they're kind of bumped up into the bigger segment, up against
Pilot,
Passport, more like. And so, and Subaru Outback is one that would be going up against. So up against those, the Cherokee does pretty well. Overall length, I think, is like 188 inches, and all of the others, like the RAV4 and those, they're closer to 170 something overall length. So it's kind of some gamesmanship in terms of which segment it resides in.
Interesting. How about you, Lindsay? What you driving?
I am driving my own vehicle, a 2025 Mazda CX-50 hybrid. that we have, I think, about 20,000 miles on now. Traded our Odyssey in for it because we didn't have kids anymore. But now we've got 2 more dogs, so we're thinking we need something even bigger than this. I love everything about this car except for the infotainment system.
Yeah, infotainment sucks.
Yeah,
It does.
It does. And I cannot keep this car from when you turn it on, the radio coming on. I just, there's little things like that just are baffling to me.
I'll tell you another thing.
More and more that's happening, I've discovered in cars, and I don't understand why.
Yeah, I have no idea. And it's just, but certain annoyances my wife and I have tamped down because dynamically it's great. It steers great. The interior is like, I think, almost Audi quality. So we like that. It rides kind of stiff, but it handles really well. It's got a nice face on it versus a lot of cars today that looks, where are the eyes and where's the mouth kind of a thing. So, we like it.
Yeah. The only thing that really bugs me about Mazdas now, and this is largely true of the Japanese across the board, is the damn seatbelt reminders. With the latest Mazda, it starts ringing as soon as you open the door.
Yeah.
And it's like, see, I've always liked to get into a car, start the engine, and then put my seatbelt on.
Yeah.
And I figure that amount of time, which is less than a minute, but it allows oil to get through all the engine. And, I'm just thinking this is good for longevity of the engine.
Yeah.
And I do this in all the test cars. But with that bing, 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 I want to grab it by the throat and choke it. And I don't know what it is. The Japanese are like all over this, being really nagging about your seatbelt mind.
And is it not enough, though, for you to just buckle up before you turn the key?
No, I'm saying, so you open the door and it goes bing, bing, bing 2 or 3 times. And then it stops. And when you get in the car, as soon as you start the engine, bing, 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 it starts nagging you. So I got to put the seatbelt on first, then start the engine. But I'm saying I want to give the engine a little bit of time to get all the oil circulating, less wear and tear and that sort of thing. So,
while you're putting on your belt.
So you buckle your seatbelt and you sit there for a minute.
Well, I'll cry in my beer. Since you were talking about the sedans, I will cry in my beer for the Mazda 6. I'm on my second Mazda 6, and I drove my 2016 Mazda 6. And every time I look at that car, I feel like, damn, that is a good-looking sedan.
It is a good-looking car.
It is a good-looking car, and it's very sad that this market doesn't support vehicles like that anymore.
Well, let's go even sadder than that. I spent the week in a Volvo V60 station wagon. I mean, I'm sure the 4 of us here, I'll raise my right hand and swear to God that I love station wagons. And they don't sell worth a hill of beans in this country. And I was trying to think, why do I like this? And a lot of it's got to do, it's part of what you're talking
sedan-like.
It's sedan-like, but with the rear station wagon thing and the V60, it's beautiful. I mean, the lines on it are so much nicer. You've got a little bit more versatility because it's a wagon, but it is a relatively small car. You're not going to pack all the stuff that you can get into a CUV. But I love the car. But one thing I will say is, I got an iPhone and I wanted to use CarPlay to be able to use the navigation. No, you have to hardwire it. It's got to be plugged in. And I'm like, what is this ridiculous? What do you mean have to plug it in? Why isn't it wireless? Big first world problem. But it shows how used to we get to this technology. Here's a beautiful car, this Volvo. But it just shows that the technology in it is already outdated. You can wirelessly pair your phone for phone calls, but you can't get Apple CarPlay without plugging it in.
See, and I think that has something to do not with it being technologically backward, but because Volvo is working so closely with Google. So I think it has a native Google system in it.
It does.
And therefore, they're basically saying, like, you can use CarPlay, unlike what General Motors is going to be doing. But if you do that, then it's like buckling your seatbelt. You got to take that extra time and do those things. But so that would persuade you that you want to move to Android.
Well, your point about the V60, BMW has the M5 wagon out, which I think is a real trial balloon. I really hope it actually gets some traction. I'm not sure that it will, but
it's about $90,000, isn't it? It's a lot of money.
Yeah,
any M5 is going to be expensive.
You know, we have really oddly in my neighborhood 2 people that bought those last Buick Opel-based wagons that are
the Tour X,
freaking stunning looking. When you see them from the rear quarter, you know, it's a long car.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget what the model name was.
Wasn't the Regal Tour X?
It was the Tour X.
Regal Tour X.
Wasn't the Tour X the one that was supposed to look a little bit sport unit,
butchier,
but there was a sleek.
Yeah, these are the basic wagons without extended, you know, wheel wells and that kind of thing, and they're just gorgeous cars. And I think they sold them for maybe 1 model year over here, and they must have had excess capacity at Opel. I have no idea.
I saw one of those recently too, and I was taken with it. I'm like, wow, that's.
That and the V90 Volvo wagon that like you could special order, but it really wasn't in the U.S. catalog for a year or 2. And yeah, I agree. I mean, other than the H point that we're used to now and sitting up higher, sedans and standard wagons are great. They're great vehicles.
But it almost is to the point now where everyone is so much higher that unless you get really high, it doesn't matter. I mean, your visibility isn't at all improved, so you might as well be down and low.
Yeah. The guy in the Peterbilt is still going to be above you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. But you know, you mentioning BMW, and this is a fun fact that maybe you guys know. That did you realize that the BMW Group is the largest automotive exporter by value from the United States?
They have been for years. They've been for years and years.
And this last year, $9 billion of exports from South Carolina.
Right. Because both them and Mercedes use their U.S. plants as their main SUV manufacturing sites. And it gets exported all over the world.
So, I mean, I wonder if there's sufficient awareness of the fact there are companies that are German companies or Japanese companies or Korean companies that are doing great things for the economy here.
They should.
We know. Right. Look, the general public is not aware of this.
Yeah. Well, but there's kind of a trend. There's kind of a trend happening right now on this same front. I'm sure tariffs has something to do with it. Geopolitics also. But on December 18th, Toyota announced that they were going to be exporting from the U.S. plants the Camry, the Tundra, and the Highlander. This is before we knew that the new 27 Highlander was EV, so we're not real clear. Are they going to send the battery electric Highlander or the existing or the Grand Highlander? Who knows? And now today, Honda is announcing Acura Integra is going to be exported to Japan.
In fact, they're introducing the Acura brand to Japan for the first time to be able to sell that car there.
That's interesting.
But they're not doing right-hand steer. They're going with left-hand steer. So, I mean, look, both these moves to me are sops to the Trump administration, right? He's been breathing down their neck. You got to do more, and they're trying anything they can.
Toyota even, in their announcement back in December, they said that specifically, that yes, we want to try to ease trade tensions, I think was their term. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Japanese people love F-150s. F-150s, Tundras.
I want to see somebody parking a Tundra on the streets of Nagoya. I really do. That will be interesting.
Well, you won't see it. They're not going to sell. They'll sell a handful, and that's about it.
And we went through that years and years ago, all of us covering the industry on right versus left-hand drive and how easily you could configure it. New models, if you're a global maker, should have both setups. And then you look at the Japan market and you go, this would be crazy having a left-hand drive car over here.
Yeah, well, if you go back years ago, I mean decades ago, having a left-hand steer Mercedes or BMW or even a Lincoln was a status symbol because it was obviously imported, and so anybody in Japan, even if they knew nothing about cars, would go, oh my gosh, that's an imported car. That must be an upscale person. But
it's kind of like seeing a Rolls Royce here that is right-hand drive.
Yeah, right. That's right.
Seems odd though. This Acura finally getting to Japan. I mean, it's just like they're always a day late and a dollar short. It seems in terms of the competition. I mean, you can buy Lexus like anywhere in the world, right? But they're not sending their cars until now.
Lexus for a long time was a U.S. only
Right,
brand.
but then it exploded. I mean, these guys didn't screw around. I mean, one market after another, after another, after another.
Went to Europe.
And if you think about it, it's one of these situations where, you basically say, well, there's BMW, there's Mercedes, there's Lexus, and that's it, right?
Cadillac isn't mentioned in
Cadillac isn't mentioned in there. Lincoln isn't mentioned in there,
Right.
and certainly Acura's not mentioned in there.
Yeah.
And I just think that they just keep missing it, and I can't understand why.
Well,
do you understand why?
Well, I'm not sure, but I view Honda differently. I'm sorry, I need some water. I view Honda differently than Toyota. I just feel like Honda is a more conservative company that takes change and growth very seriously, and they do a lot of research on this before they make a decision like, are we going to export something or create a brand, in Japan that we already have in the U.S. And I kind of appreciate it that they want to stay, they want to stick to their knitting. They want to, I'm glad that they still have the Accord and the Civic in the U.S. I mean, as somebody who likes still small cars or sedans, I think that's really important. So,
well, but if you think about it, I mean, when we had the Acura NSX, if you were to go to Europe, the NSX was a Honda.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't an Acura.
Yeah.
We had that car here. It's like, wow, this is really a special car.
Honda Integra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
So let's talk about Scout. Boy, they've had some news.
Well, Tom, you were there at their press
I was
conference
there
yesterday, right?
Yeah, they have an innovation center here in Michigan that's leading the product development. They got 400 people there. They've got another 1,300 people down at the plant in South Carolina. But yeah, they have design and engineering here and product validation. And so, yeah, we talked a lot about direct sales to dealer, bypassing the dealers. And
that's controversial.
Certainly a hot.
So there's lots of lawsuits, right? I mean, that's the reason that came up.
Sean, right. 2 more today. 2 more dealers filed suits. Yeah. So we reported that in Autoline Daily today.
Yeah, I
2
heard
more dealers have filed suits against Scout.
Yeah. So, there was no mention of franchise laws by Scott Kehoe. For obvious reasons, they think they can. He's looking at the broader economy and saying, look what Amazon's doing, Look what Tesla did. Look that so many people in America are just used to buying things directly and having it delivered to their house. And why can't we do that? Why can't we do it with cars? And he makes sense financially, but there are laws on the books, so it raises a lot of questions.
So his vehicles. Did he say anything about like timing, about when they're actually going to?
Yeah, you're not going to be happy with that answer because it's too long. It's like they rolled out prototypes, or the first reveal was October of 24, and now today we're talking about they're just putting tooling in the plant right now, which means they're running early prototypes this year and into next year. And the way Scott Kehoe described it, I think like 4 iterations of prototypes that are going to get tested and improved upon each time. So that means people aren't taking saleable units until like 28. So, it's just, come on, guys.
Tom, what do you think, though? Because they announced, just a couple of weeks ago, that they're delaying the program another year.
Well, they're not saying delaying. They're
using another word.
This question came up yesterday about, hey, is this program delayed or what? And Scott's like, no, you look back at what we said in 2024, and we're doing exactly what we said we would. That I forget the exact wording, but that we will have cars ready for delivery in 2027 and deliver them, or we will launch.
They'll be ready for delivery. We'll just keep them.
Yeah.
We will launch in 27 and deliver to customers thereafter. Something like that.
Wow.
Which,
so maybe they're coming out in 29.
As he admitted, it's vague and it's.
Why do you think they're pushing it back? Problems developing an EREV, or any guesses?
This is a whole new. This is all new territory for Volkswagen. They really want to have a hit with a vehicle in a segment and they chose the 2 right segments to have a vehicle: the Terra pickup truck the Traveler SUV. I mean, that's really where you want to be. But to try to make sense of the timing of it all, I was just hoping that they would have been further along by now. But
do you think it's because of powertrain situations? Given,
I don't think so, because I think it's more about getting the plant built, because they're still, they're still into the brick and mortar mode down there. So, they're putting in robots now and tooling now. So, I mean, how much time before you get vehicles that you can actually test? But in terms of the powertrain, they're going to get a Volkswagen 4-cylinder engine.
Did he finally admit that?
Well,
because that was a
they
question
put up
that
a
they wouldn't
slide.
answer.
They put up a slide that said, 4-cylinder engine, and at some point, maybe in the presentation, it was either said or it was in the presentation, Volkswagen 4-cylinder engine. And it's going to go in the back. It's going to go behind the rear axle. And I reached out to Scout today asking, hey, can you provide any tech images? Like, you had this really nice technical computer-generated diagram of the chassis, and can you give us a better version of that to print? Oh no, we can't do that. Well, I'm glad I took a really bad picture with my phone while it was up on a PowerPoint slide, because it shows, there's the electric drive unit up front between the front struts, and appears to be behind the frunk, and then in the back end, there's a fuel tank, a smallish fuel tank that appears to be like under the second row seats. And behind that comes the rear drive motor is mounted as part of the axle, the solid rear axle and back. And then above that and behind the rear axle is this 4-cylinder engine.
So the battery is about midships?
Battery it looks, smack in the middle of the, and it's a structural member, just like the positioning for any other battery.
Did they mention weight balance with all
Where
this?
now they're not, they haven't even given specs for like overall, wheelbase, overall dimensions, interior cargo room, horsepower, torque. I think they did say 1,000 foot-pounds of torque, which I just wonder, why do we need 1,000 pound-feet of torque? I mean,
we don't.
If I could have like 700 pound-feet of torque and more range, I'm checking that box.
So 400 was good for a long time.
So Tom, you said they got the two right body styles.
Yeah.
The SUV and the pickup truck. Okay.
Yep.
Did Rivian come up at all? Which has both of those body styles, both of those, at a high price point, as the Scout will be.
And they're sharing software, by the way.
And Rivian can't wait till it gets the small, cheap thing out, right? I mean, it's just like...
Yeah, which comes this year.
Is
the R2.
That came up too. I mean, every time I see it, when I
I
saw the Scout in person, I'm like, Jesus, looks like a Rivian.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a compliment, because I think Rivian has kind of hit the, they really hit the bullseye. I think in the shape and the form of the first generation truck and SUV. And they'll have the R2 out, smaller. And that question did come up yesterday. No, there was no mention of Rivian yesterday, or styling, or did you borrow some styling cues? Or, but no, instead it was it was asked. Are you going to go smaller? Does Scout need something smaller in the lineup? And yeah, Scott Keogh said you'll see variants of these two vehicles, the Terra and the Traveler. Plus, maybe we could go smaller. It could go lower in the lineup.
So Lindsay, what's your take on this whole EREV thing?
I don't know. It's, the four of us covered the development right before kind of Tesla took off, and it was still, how much efficiency can you squeeze out of a combustion engine vehicle with some hybridization? And everybody was working on, remember, FEV and AVL both had Wankel rotaries that would run at a constant speed, very light, very package efficient, and that was their EREV solution. And it kind of made sense if they could meet the emission profile of that motor and keep it in that narrow band. Maybe that would work. And then we had kind of Volt, was down that same, basically down that same path.
BMW iX or i3,
i3
with an extended range.
Right. But Volt, was the standard engine that was too big for that. So, the German consultancies seemed to be going the right way on a special purpose-built deal. And I remember at an SAE conference, a GM engineer from R&D showing a plastic blocked small engine, 3-cylinder engine, plastic block, which made me think of the Apollo motor from back in the 70s and 80s.
What was that guy, Matty
Holtzberg.
Yeah.
And this was an engine optimized, and I couldn't believe that they were showing this. And I followed up with a guy, and he says, I can give you all this stuff. And like, no, you're not going to give me any of it. But that was their attempt to do the same thing, figuring if you can put this engine anywhere, and it's interesting that they're hanging it out the back, but it won't be that much of a burden. You can kind of balance it out with a battery. But standard production engines don't make any sense for this, because it's too much engine for what you want to do. So in theory, to answer your question, it seemed like it would be good for, you can still access gas stations and you get all this range out of it, but I don't know.
Well, okay, so the 4-cylinder engine that they're talking about, okay, it's a non-turbocharged engine from what I understand.
Hard to say.
Well, I mean, what I've been able to find, it's basically going to come out of the Silao plant where they build the turbocharged 4-cylinder engines for the variety of Volkswagen products. And so in this case, they decided not to do that. But to go to your point of saying, standard production engines probably aren't the right thing.
It's over-designed for this concept, really,
So do you think that they might be using that 4-cylinder engine because they have one?
Well, and maybe because, Tom, we haven't really seen them play the hand yet. Maybe they've got something that's kind of purpose-built for EREV.
Well, but when you talk about a BMW i3 or a Volt, it's significantly smaller than a Terra or an SUV or a SUV or a good-sized pickup truck. So 4-cylinder might not be too small.
Yeah.
I mean, you could go pretty small. You go to 1.5 liters with a 4-cylinder engine.
But here's the thing. An EV sucks a lot of juice. And if you're going to have an internal combustion engine trying to keep the battery charged, you need a big engine. This is why Ram went with a 3.6 liter V6. And if you look at the EREVs in China, because China has blazed the path in this, really, I mean, sure, Bolt was one of the first ones out there, but Chinese have done some really good stuff where they're getting very impressive levels of thermodynamic efficiency for an internal combustion engine, 46 to 48%.
Yeah, even over 50%. Of course, Toyota was about 51%, really optimized.
No. I think Toyota was at 41%.
They were down
41%. And what the Chinese have done, if you're going to run an engine in a limited rev range, okay, now it doesn't have to do the whole duty cycle.
Right.
So you can start taking cost out and you can start doing other things like bumping up the compression ratio, running a lot more EGR, changing the valve timing and stuff like that. So there's at least 3 Chinese companies that have got EREV engines in the 46 to 48%.
Purpose designed for EREV.
Designed for EREV.
I think that's what it's got to be.
So I wouldn't be surprised if Volkswagen's going, hey, wait a minute, we can take cost out and we can get more efficiency working with this engine. I'm sure it will not be turbo, just from a cost standpoint. And heat, if you got the engine in the back of the vehicle, I'm guessing cooling might be an issue. Can be dealt with, but it's going to be an issue.
Well,
So
they have time.
durability.
I mean, they still have a couple of years to deal with this. So you're right.
right.
Is there any question at all among the 4 of us of Scout being superseded by Audi's real need for U.S. production?
That question came up yesterday, whether
Scott Kehoe used to run Audi of America, incidentally.
The plant in South Carolina is built for 200,000 units. And, if you're going to build extended range EVs, I mean, that's a pretty big number. And the question came up, hey, would there be capacity for Audi to, to get a version of this vehicle? And he didn't rule it out. He said it's possible. I'm sure it's all going to depend on what kind of demand they're seeing. They've got 160,000 hand raisers who've put down $100 each for a Scout at this point, and 87% of them want the extended range
the EREV,
version.
right?
Yeah, so clearly that was a smart move. But yeah, Audi. So it would be a good problem for them to have. Like, oh, we need to find room to make an Audi version too, because we've tapped out this operation in Blythewood, South Carolina.
Well, but in that plant footprint, could they also have half the plant making A4s? You know,
that didn't come up.
Yeah.
It'd be
well, Audi
interesting.
needs a plant here, but one of the problems that's going to face Scout is if it starts building Audis, and those Audis are sold through Audi dealers, all the Volkswagen dealers are going to see, we told you, you're part of Volkswagen, and you cannot sell direct.
Right.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
So you know, I saw that number about the 160,000 reservations. So I looked into what is the conversion rate. It's about 60%. So this basically means 96,000 may buy Scouts. So you have this plant with 200,000 capacity. They got plenty of room.
That's not bad though. I mean, at this point, because hopefully the number grows over the next 2 years rather than people like, I got to wait 2 years. And they take their name off the list. Be interesting to see, how patient these customers can be.
I'm waiting for a slate.
Yeah. Hey, look, time out. We got to take a quick commercial break. We got a lot more to talk about yet, but a shout out to our great sponsors.
Making your life full of memories, one road trip at a time. That's what really matters. Bridgestone Weather Peak tires with a 70,000-mile limited warranty.
The automotive industry continues to evolve, and so do the opportunities to define it. BorgWarner, one of the world's most admired companies, gets its partners where they need to go. Let's do something big, together.
All right, we're back talking. Look, we got, you got something?
Well, I was saying before, I just want to follow up on this EV thing in terms of timing and what's going on in this market, okay? And I think it's startling to me that I saw that in Germany in February, that electric vehicles, 21.9% of new vehicle registrations, okay? In the United Kingdom, 24.2% of new car registrations were EVs in February, right?
Any idea what the split is on Chinese
Well, no, I'm
models?
looking at it from the point of view of here we're seeing massive growth happening in these markets, and we're seeing ours like bumping along at about like 7, right?
Yeah.
So what is the likelihood of success for a company like Scout when it's, banking on electric and electrified vehicles as basically all it's got?
Well, in Europe, though, I mean, isn't the Chinese kind of penetrating that market, contributing to a lot of the growth of the EV market there?
Absolutely right.
Well, I suspect that's the case in the UK. I don't think there's a whole hell of a lot being sold in Germany right
Like
now.
low retail prices of BYD and those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen the sales broken out in Germany, but yeah, BYD sales in last month in Europe were up 175%.
Yeah.
Now that was BYD. The Chinese overall lost a little bit of market share, but I know MG, for example, has been very strong in the UK.
Because of its brand, classic UK brand. Lindsay can tell us all about that.
And Morris Garage.
But it's a really good question, though. I mean, I'm really interested to see the first quarter sales split for the U.S. market on EVs and
Oh, they suck. I
powertrain
can tell
choices.
you what's been reported already.
Yeah,
It's bad.
It's good
It's
to be
totally
bad.
bad. But here's the question. This is what I wanted to segue into, and this is the perfect segue. We got to talk about this Iran war.
Yeah.
Because the price of oil is going up. We've been tracking it on Autoline Daily. I looked it up just before we came in here to the studio. It's up to $80 a barrel. And I want to say a week and a half ago, what was it? It was like $62 to $68 a barrel. So
On January 27th, it was $72.48.
Okay. So because as you guys know, if certainly in the United States, if the price goes up quickly at the pump, I'm not talking barrels of oil, I'm talking gallons of gasoline. If the price goes up quickly, people freak out. Now, if it goes up slowly over the course of a year, it's the boil the frog slowly approach, right? And people don't adjust.
But isn't the inflection point somewhere around $4 a gallon? At that point, you start
if we
seeing
hit $4 a gallon, all of a sudden this EREV and EV stuff, and especially hybrids, are going to look a whole lot better.
Yeah.
But what I find interesting, this is the year that the Detroit Three thought, okay, Trump's taken off the fuel economy and the emissions regulations, no more fine. We can build whatever we want. Well, if the price goes up at the pump, guess what? All bets are off in terms of selling more full-size SUVs and full-size pickups.
I think about Stellantis launching the Hemi. I mean, they just got it out there. They're selling a lot of Hemis. People are glad to have it back, and now you have an impact on fuel prices, which might not work to their favor. But it could certainly help all the extended range EVs.
So apparently a $1 rise in the price of gasoline results in a 21% increase in fuel-efficient vehicles and a 27% decline in less fuel-efficient vehicles. So this gets to your point. These guys are banking on those less fuel-efficient, although they'll swear up and down, oh, it's so fuel-efficient compared to what it used to be. Well, yeah. I used to be taller, too.
Well, and what you mentioned about the new Cherokee, I mean, that's pretty outstanding fuel economy. 37 highway for that vehicle.
Yeah.
And of course, it depends if you get the baseline skinny tires and, you don't have it loaded up. But that's pretty good. My wife and I took a trip yesterday, and it was the first I'd been out of town to see what gas prices were down into Ohio. And it's like $3.29, $3.39 a gallon.
In Ohio.
In Ohio.
That's about the same as here.
Yeah. So that's about 40 cents more than what we were paying. It was like $2.89 for a while.
And we should point out, in the Midwest, Ohio prices tend to be a lot lower than elsewhere in the Midwest.
Right. But I remember years ago when I worked at CSM Worldwide, we would do all these scenario plannings on what the tipping point was, because hybrids were on the upswing. And so what is going to be the retail fuel price tipping point of really driving people into electrified vehicles? And of course, California, where the big market was already like $2 a gallon more than everything else. But for the rest of the country, back then, and that was 2000, when was that? 2005. It was $4 a gallon, and it really wasn't that a factor. And they kept saying, the economists would go, is it, $4.50 a gallon? Is it $4.30 a gallon? And people kept buying, Hemis and Rams.
But again, it depends on the rate of increase in the price
How quickly.
at the pump.
Yeah.
And when we saw it just before the Great Recession, when gas prices really went up, everyone was talking about peak oil and this, was going to go to 150 a barrel. I mean, the speeds that everybody were driving at on the highway was noticeably down. Everybody was very fuel economy conscious.
It was like Nixon 55,
I kind of missed those slower speeds out on 696.
Right. But once people got used to the prices, it was, sales went back to normal. Highway speeds went not just back to normal, but higher than before. And it's all about the rate of increase that affects the consumer's mind.
Yeah. So Lindsay, to your point about 2005, so on Monday, gas prices went up 12 cents per gallon, which is the fourth highest daily rate since 2005.
Wow. That's interesting, yeah.
So if we look at the situation, that the Straits of Hormuz, 20% of the oil flows through that. And, now the government's talking about we'll put Navy boats to protect these tankers. We'll do whatever it takes to do that. And I got to believe that narrow strait is just rife for the possibility of tankers being blown up. And
well, mines in particular, the Iranians have a real mine capability, and they can lay mines with little Boston whalers. And the U.S. is kind of short on minesweepers, and everybody else, nobody invests in minesweepers. You invest in destroyers.
It's old technology.
Yeah. So until somebody sews a narrow channel with mines, then it becomes a giant problem.
So the other thing, I didn't realize how much aluminum is made in the Middle East, because, to manufacture aluminum is very energy intensive. So energy costs become paramount. They got cheap oil prices. Something like 8% of global aluminum is made in the Middle East. This is one of the reasons why, Saudi Arabia has convinced Lucid to start building cars in Saudi Arabia because they're made out of aluminum. So it's not just oil. We've seen a huge increase. I say huge, a noticeable increase in the price of aluminum since this all broke out. So, we're learning more about supply chains because of this.
Well, and also I'm curious to see what the long-term impact is in terms of sales and in certain segments. Seems like Toyota and Honda with all their hybrids, they're probably going to benefit from this if people are looking for more efficient vehicles. I think General Motors could really benefit. They've got all these EVs that they stuck with, while Ford cut back on some of their EVs, GM stayed the course. And, not that I want to see oil prices, skyrocket, but
thank you, Tom.
But GM sticking with all the EVs could actually do all right with it. And then the Germans have a lot of plug-in hybrid vehicles, at the luxury end, and people in that segment not hurting for cash if they know that I could save how much on fuel if I actually plug this thing into a wall socket in my garage. So maybe the plug-in hybrid, which has not done that well in the U.S., maybe this is a chance. And not soon enough can Ford get an F-150 E-Rev out there, and Ram and Jeep get their E-Revs out there, and then of course GM's talking about some hybrid versions of is it plug-in hybrid that they're working on for some of the pickups, big pickups and full-size SUVs.
Yeah.
So these are all great ideas, and suddenly right now there's a little bit more urgency.
It's the perfect time to bring back diesel, which I saw a couple weeks ago. You might have seen it, Tom. Stellantis increasing diesel installations in some light-duty passenger vehicles.
Really?
Like a couple small vans, maybe Fiat Ducato.
I can see for commercial, absolutely.
But there were a couple passenger vehicles, small SUVs thrown into that mix too. Not for North America, but for Europe.
But what I was astonished on, Sean, do you remember what did we say that diesel market share was in Europe last month? You don't remember? So, I mean, it is staggering how small diesel market
compared
share.
to what it was.
It used to be almost half the market.
It was 50% 15, 20 years ago.
Right, exactly right. And I can't remember off the top of my head the number. I wish I could, but it was like amazingly small.
So Lindsay, to your point about the cost of things, though, that gasoline's national average price was $3.25 per gallon. Diesel, $4.16.
Oh, I know. That was another thing.
Went up
Seeing all
11%.
these freeway signs, over $4.
Yeah. So that's such a good deal with the diesel.
Right.
9%.
9% diesel today.
Diesel
in
market
Europe.
share in Europe, down from 50% just before Dieselgate.
I just say that because we all love them. We were talking about station wagons earlier, and I remember right before the VW emissions scandal came out, it was Detroit Auto Show. My wife and I were there for the early press preview, and there was a Golf wagon with a 6-speed and a diesel.
6-speed manual.
6-speed manual and a diesel, and I thought...
And all the journalists are drooling over it.
We were drooling over this car, and then like 2 weeks later, you couldn't find the thing. But it is interesting if when you're coming up behind Volkswagen cars on the freeway, how many TDIs you still see out there.
Yeah.
There's still a ton of, they offer them all this money and we'll take it back. And there's still a lot of people that are really alive to these things.
That's right. So should we talk F1?
I think we should talk F1, John.
So Formula One is starting this weekend, and we had a big discussion about, is racing a waste of time? And I'm a hardcore motor racing enthusiast, and I tried to carry the flag, but Gary was shooting me down with cannon salvos. And I got to tell you guys that I won't mention him by name because we were just chit-chatting, but it's now retired, but very, very senior automotive executive, did all kinds of performance, product planning and development,
engineer,
and but we're talking senior VP level. Yeah. And he told me he agreed with Gary.
Really? You didn't expect to hear that, John?
No, I didn't. And he especially excoriated GM for all the money it's putting into F1. He grudgingly admitted that the Ford approach wasn't too bad because Ford's spending like $35 million a year, and it's got its big blue oval on the Red Bull cars, and that's an ad spend. That's probably less than Ford spent on American Idol, the TV program. So he thought that was okay.
Even I said Ford at the Baja 500 is
yes,
genius.
And he agreed with you on that. He agreed with you on that all the off-road racing stuff made a lot of sense. So I'm just, it's full disclosure.
But John, give us the apples to apples comparisons between Ford and GM and F1.
So GM is all in as a works team. They're building their own chassis from scratch. Right now, they're using a Ferrari engine because they're still developing their own. They're going to have
theirs.
And they built an entire team from scratch. They didn't go out and buy something else. And my guess is General Motors, honest to God, is dumping $1 billion a year into this effort. That's me. That's me saying that. They haven't said anything like that. Versus Ford, which has got this technical agreement with Red Bull Racing. Red Bull is making its own engine, which is honestly, they took all the Honda stuff and have been refining it. And Ford is working with them. And my guess is, because interestingly, the Skunk Works people that are developing this universal EV platform out in California for Ford, Doug Field and Alan Clark's group, they're the ones that really wanted to get involved with F1. Because they wanted the aerodynamics expertise, they wanted the software expertise, they wanted the battery expertise, and this blending. I mean, Formula One is hybrid powertrain. I wouldn't be surprised if they're playing around with supercapacitors and stuff like that. So anyway, Red Bull has come out and said the technical agreement with Ford has been very good for it, and but I'll bet more of the information and learning is flowing back into Ford. So anyway, Ford is paying Red Bull $35 million a year, which, like I said, that's like an ad spend. Yeah. But anyway, that's the major difference between Ford and GM's approach to F1.
Just think of how many Stanford PhDs they could get for $35 million.
I know you brought that up before. But here's the other interesting thing with this war raging on with Iran in the Middle East. There's quite a few F1 races that take place in the Middle East, or certainly within range of all those long-range Iranian missiles. Yeah. So now the question for the season is, well, it's a big question mark. Yeah.
Won't be getting my tickets anytime soon for the Bahrain GP, Right. No, I think, it's interesting, F1 being above everything else and these arguments that, in the beginning of time, it was all these low volume European and Mercedes, but low volume, the Lotus and McLaren and so forth, the sports car specialists that spent their time there. And then you had the market, which was like World Sports Car Racing and Le Mans and, endurance racing, which could make a better argument for putting an investment into a team there to derive more out of it for production vehicle use. So, I don't know. One side of me says it's like going to Mars. I don't know why we would do it, but Mark Royce has his argument for it. He's a hardcore racing guy. Right. That might have been a career goal, is to get GM into F1 before he retires. Who knows?
I think that's a lot of it. But all I can tell you is, as a motor racing fan, I love it.
Yeah. I think it's kind of bogus using somebody else's engine. I mean, that's the heart and soul of it, and saying, well, it's a Ferrari engine. And don't they have Mario now allied with the program?
They're naming their chassis the Mario Andretti chassis, MAC they're calling it, which I think is a wonderful tribute to Mario Andretti.
And I thought it was weird.
Assuming they win races.
Well, but here's the interesting thing. I don't think Mario ever had anything to do with any GM brand whatsoever in his racing career.
Right.
If anything, it was with Ford. Yeah. Ferrari too, obviously, but it's so. Yeah. But it was Andretti Racing that first tried to get into Formula One.
And got slapped down.
Well, they got slapped down. And all I can tell you is I think Michael Andretti had a lot of, that was a lot of the reason why it got slapped down.
Yeah.
And, as soon as he got booted out of his own company. That should tell you something right there. And it was literally weeks after he got booted out that F1 gave the green light for them to come into F1.
I think the fact that F1 saw this giant checkbook that was being held by General Motors, thought, this is what we want.
Safer bet than Michael Andretti.
Yeah.
How do you think Cadillac's going to do in the first
they're going to
season?
suck. They're going to absolutely suck. And I wish Mark Royce or somebody at GM would come out and say, look, let's be very humble. These are Zach Brown, who runs McLaren, made a great point. He said, even the worst team in Formula One is an exceptionally well-run company. And so it'd be like starting an NFL team from scratch, totally from scratch, and saying, we're going to win the Super Bowl this year. No, you're not. You're not. It's going to take you years to build up your program to get there. And look, personally, I think if Cadillac scores 1 point this year, that should be considered a victory.
Is the output, though, to sell cars
for
and
$1 billion?
Is the output to sell cars and markets, vehicles and markets, that only F1 will be that identifier to the customer that, this was a General Motors car that won, versus, when they went to Le Mans with the Corvettes, the Pratt & Miller cars, they had success. I mean, they built up, but they won the class a number of times. Now,
9 times.
Yeah, I don't know how many Corvettes that sold in Bahrain or Oman or, wherever.
How many did it sell in Detroit?
They sell like 25,000 a year.
No,
45,000 a year.
Predicated on racing.
Oh, yeah, it's a good question.
See,
But see, what I'll tell you what it's done.
Win on Sunday, buy on Monday.
Yeah,
We've already
I think the end of that era was really the muscle car era, where literally you could buy a Fairlane or a Mustang or a Super Bee or a Roadrunner or whatever, and there was down at the Mile and Dragway.
Detroit Dragway.
I saw those cars win, and that's the dominant car. I think that's the end of that era, really.
Yeah, no, that era's gone. But I will say what Corvettes racing at Le Mans has done for it is, if you go back 20 years ago, it's an American car. It's a big, fat American car with a big V8,
Yeah.
And that was the attitude. And now Corvette is completely accepted by the sports car crowd there. And it's like, they've proved themselves. The car has become more refined. It's a legitimate sports car. And now, is there an ROI on that? I don't know.
Yeah.
If you add up all the money that they put into racing that car over all the years, did that
waste
turn into it? But
yeah,
it's good for morale.
But I'll tell you, Corvette is now considered, and there are absolute fans in France of the Corvette.
Yeah, I thought it was really funny when, before the Cadillac F1 car was unveiled, it was like, what's this car going to look like? And they're leading up to that, and they pull the cover off, and it's like a lot of black, and there was no like Dayglow Cadillac logo on the side. And I thought, well, this could almost be anything, compared to the artist renditions that came out before the unveiling, where guys were designing in tail fins, like 59 Cadillac tail fins. And I thought, people everywhere in the world will know that's a Cadillac, So here's this car, and okay, you kind of have to tell people what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. We're not sitting on that.
We had a whole show about this, so we'll leave that there. So you wanted to talk about the change of CEOs that have been happening in the industry.
Yeah, 9 of them.
So for the audience, Tom, just lay it out. What's the thumbnail?
Between January 1st and May of 26, Automotive News did a great job rounding this up. They discovered the trend, realized, wow, look at all the turnover here. So we're talking, let's see if I can name them all: Stellantis, Nissan, Hyundai, Renault, BMW, Toyota. Did I mention Hyundai?
No.
Hyundai.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Porsche,
Volvo,
and Volvo.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, really interesting mix of companies there. And of all those companies, you know who I think has the most pressure on them? Mr. Kanto at Toyota, because he's got the most to lose. I mean, he's got to keep this juggernaut moving. I mean, the other companies are kind of changing not all of them are changing directions, but it feels like, he's got a lot on his shoulders. Like, don't mess this up.
Don't
mess this up.
No, that's a great point. See, I would have said Antonio Filosa at Stellantis, because
clearly,
to me,
he's got the biggest,
Stellantis is a dumpster fire.
He's got the biggest challenge.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to disparage the company. All I'm saying is, boy, he's got some tough decisions to make.
Yeah.
He needs the Hemi too.
I think the
You
guy.
know?
I think the guy out of all of them, because I looked into this. I mean, okay, so the guy who is taking over as CEO of BMW, that's because Oliver Zipse is 62, and he should have retired 2 years ago. So they kept him on. So it's like this is the BMW board said you leave at 60. Oliver, we're keeping you for a couple more years. Gone, right? In the case of Toyota, I mean, they wanted a finance guy, so they got the Kenda Kon in, and so Sato's got a new job. He's basically been kicked up, but he's more. It seems to me that Akio was in charge of the Japan Automobile Manufacturers Association for many years, and it's a big policy board. I think that Sato's new job is in line with things like that. Okay. Yeah. So this finance guy is going to be, running the books there. Munoz came in. He replaced Chang Jin Hao, who was promoted to vice chair. So, slot opens. This guy gets kicked up. At Volvo, Håkan Samuelsson, who had run the company from 2012 to 2022, came back.
He retired. And then who's the guy?
Jim Rowan.
Jim Rowan came in. And Jim Rowan's a very smart guy, but the wheels came off the car.
Where was he before?
He was at Dyson, was it?
Could have been, yeah.
Yeah, he's a tech guy. He's a tech guy, not an automotive guy.
Wow.
Yeah. And he came in and he pushed them into EVs and SDVs, software-defined vehicles, a little too quickly, I think, in retrospect, you could say. And things started to go bad fast. So they brought Samuelsson back because this guy knows how to pull the right levers and, get the dealers behind it. You start selling cars and get the money rolling in again.
Yep.
I think the guy's got the biggest problem is the Ivan Espinosa, who's running Nissan now. It's like,
that's a hot mess too.
Yeah. I mean, that's been problematic for, I think, longer than you would say Stellantis has been.
Correct. No, I would totally agree. Look, I think Nissan's going to emerge out of this as a much smaller company. And my argument is it's got two markets in the world where it can be relevant, North America and Japan. End of story.
And what I think Nissan is lacking right now is someone like Akio Toyoda, who was all about product. No more boring cars. I mean, that's just a brilliant philosophy right there that just changed the entire company. Every vehicle that they did, whether it was a Corolla or whether it was a Lexus, they just really, they were hitting all the right buttons in terms of styling. And anyway, so Nissan needs that kind of energy. Their best seller is a Nissan Rogue. I mean, everybody knows that the RAV4 is, a great car, and it's all new right now. For anyone to think about the Rogue, if that's their shining example, I mean, yeah, it's a good car and all, but there's no excitement really around a Nissan Rogue. The Maxima's gone, the Altima's going away, and we're talking about sedans, the cars that we used to be excited about, except for the Z car. Thank you for the Z car still being around. That's really important. But yeah, Nissan got their hands full.
So the question I have to you guys is that, okay, John thinks it'll come out as a smaller company. Is there a possibility that there's just the lack of momentum and it just cannot be brought back?
They've always had a really broad product portfolio. And there were, as Tom mentions, there were fewer hits than misses for just, it seems like a long time.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Rogue. I mean, that segment was always RAV4 CRV. I think Escape was number 3 for a while, quite a while. I don't know where Rogue was. It might have been 5th in there. Then the Koreans came in and kind of changed everything.
Yeah.
And Z-Car, their attempt at a large pickup, I think
Titan.
You'd have to call it a failure.
Titan was a failure.
I just got to call it a failure in this market.
They do pretty well with Frontier, but yes, Titan was a disappointment.
Yeah, I don't think they'd go away, Gary. I think Japan government would step in and go, hey, Honda, you got to go together with
You
them.
think that'd be brought back? The Honda Nissan thing?
I don't think that the Japanese government will allow Nissan to go under. or it will do everything in its power to prevent it from going under.
So the government wasn't involved enough in the previous discussion, perhaps between those two?
Well, look, I think Honda wanted nothing to do with it. That's my own reading of the tea leaves. But you know, we're getting down to the end here. I think the Porsche, what's his name? The Porsche CEO. He's got his hands full. What is it? Lightner or something?
Yes, lighters.
Yeah.
Lighters. And
they had to kill a couple EV programs. I mean, they invested a lot in that.
They're collapsing in China. Absolutely collapsing in China. They have zero manufacturing in the U.S., so everything's getting hit with the tariffs. I think their move into crossovers and sport utes was good from a business standpoint, but I also think it's chipping away at the brand cachet of the company.
Is it though, really? Do you think so? I mean, is it preventing people from buying 911s?
No. The 911 is golden, you know, and
as long as they keep selling those cars and they're getting the money from selling Macans and Cayennes so that they can finance the good stuff.
Right, but their profitability has taken a nosedive.
Compared to the Vitaking era when he brought in the SUVs and it was sky high.
Right. Look, I mean, when you look at the market cap of Volkswagen AG, so much of that is Porsche's value. And now Porsche's value is, you know, just dropping downhill fast. So, and you know, Porsche fed so much cash into the Volkswagen system.
But how much do you think this is predicated not on product as much as it is on this collapse in the Chinese market?
Most of it's the collapse in the China market.
So it's almost one of these situations where they bet so much,
too many eggs in one basket,
on that being their future,
right?
And then
it's gone. It's gone, right? So, look, we're at the top of the
good thing
hour.
we're not in China.
I have one more thing to say.
Nissan's
solution is going back to Datsun.
You think that'll do it? Name change.
Solve all the problems.
For my childhood years, seeing those cars was just like, that is the coolest
They need another
car.
510.
Another 510.
That
right.
510 was a brilliant car.
That's right.
Lindsay, I was an owner of a Datsun 310. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But, well, the 310 wasn't a 510.
So, it wasn't. That's all I could afford.
Really good. Well, we'll have to wrap it up. But Tom Murphy, Lindsay, Brooke, great to have you guys.
Glad to be
Thanks,
here.
John. Good to be here.
Covered a
Thank you, Gary.
wide number of topics here. And,
Always good.
So good stuff, Gary. We'll do it again next week.
We certainly will.
Okay. Thanks, everybody, for having tuned in.
AutoLine After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone Tires, solutions for your journey, and by Borg Warner. The automotive industry continues to evolve, and so do the opportunities to define it. Borg Warner, one of the world's most admired companies, gets partners where they need to go. Let's do something big together.